So it's not enough research. So now you're putting out that this person is missing. It's like, nah, she's really not. That's one portion of it. That's just the people who, act like they're missing, but they're not, right? The other part of it is simply the research part determines how much information you're going to put out over those airwaves, or you're going to put out over your prospective platform. You have to do your research. You have to talk to the family. You have to try to get some sort of information from the police. You have to play your role. You have to not just say, okay, because most times what happens is this is what the media does. This is all they do. If you might get the police, they don't send out the information. They don't do that in regards to missing people. But what happens is if you go on the police's website, they have the description there. All the media is doing is taking the same description and putting it out on TV or whatever else.
Right.
That's all they're doing. That's not helpful. That's not enough information.
Right.
It's not. What are you doing as a journalist or whoever you are? What are you doing to take that extra step?
Right.
When I reported on that 15-year-old girl, I spoke to her aunt directly. I got all this information, and that's how I was able to put out accurate information.
Right.
That's the only reason. So as the media, we have to do a better job of doing our research. We have to talk to the family. We have to talk to the friends. We need to talk to somebody other than the information that we get from the police. Now, the police are a reliable resource. That's just like a spoken thing in the media industry.
But if they're getting good information themselves.
If they're right, and that's what I was about to say. If they're getting good information themselves, right? Sometimes what bothers me is that, a person can report a person missing, but and then the police just put it out there. Well, how do you know they're really missing? Just because somebody came in and said it? That doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And you have to make the determination, which people don't realize, is that if somebody's missing, it's because what we deal with, we go in a situation is that somebody has said that somebody else isn't where they think they should be when they think they should be there.
Right.
That's a whole lot of nothing.
It's like missing your curfew.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole lot of nothing. And, you get more and more, you get people that are coming into situations where their parents in the middle of custody things are saying that somebody's missing. Right. And they're calling the police and they're wearing them down with these fake calls,
Right. Yep.
And you have somebody overdue. I mean, I remember a thing where this missing girl ended up tracking down the father. He had the girl. He was over somebody's house playing Xbox, running late, and said he had told the wife he'd be late, and she didn't tell the police and called the missing to get him in trouble.
Gosh.
And that's not right. That's misusing resources.
Right.
We got to focus and we got to train people and educate people because there really aren't many people out there who know actually what to do in a missing person incident. They have their routine. We make some flyers, we put on a website, whatever.
Right.
But they don't know the right questions to ask the people and to get the right information and to get that gut feel about whether or not this is a valid situation or not.
Well, also, and I agree with that because I feel like sometimes you have to. Yes, you're trying to get information out, but you have to listen. You have to listen. When people talk, they will reveal what's happening. That's why I listen. When people talk, I listen because as I listen, I start to feel, I start to see, I start to understand. Like, hold on, this is so much deeper than what you're presenting to me because I listen, and then I get to go in and ask follow-up questions after that.
I listen to what the person's saying. I try and empathize with what they're saying.
Yeah.
I ask them questions to validate what they're saying. I paraphrase it back to them. I summarize it, and then I give them every opportunity to present themselves in the right light in the situation. That's my simple formula. But the bulk of that is listening.
That's good.
The bulk of that is listening. And you can't listen enough. And I just find a lot of people who are who come in to interview people aren't there to listen. They're there to shotgun questions.
Right. That's it.
And they want quick answers. And they come in and they're not listening. They're waiting for a pause to get the next question out of their mouth. And that's not the way to do it. And if you can't do it, maybe somebody else should do it. That doesn't need to be a sworn job. That could you could have somebody who's a good interview person. And lots of times, if you're missing somebody, lots of time, if you're a 60-year-old woman that's talking about the grandchild missing, maybe the person interview isn't a 20-something-year-old police officer. It's been an officer for 2 years. They want somebody they can relate to. Yeah. And that's one of the things I do very often is I don't talk directly to the direct family. It's usually an aunt or uncle, somebody who's a step removed. They're calmer. I can have a different conversation with them. There's not as much emotion. And then after I talk to them, I'll go and talk to the direct family with a couple clarifying questions, just to include them in a loop. But they're too emotional, Families, it's a very strenuous thing. Right. And that's one of the ways you can tell if it's real or not. How much is it devastating the family?
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes you see people that online they act like it's real, but in person it's like, you guys don't seem to be too worried about this.
I mean, it's funny that you say that because I remember my second missing person story when I used to work for Chasing News on Fox. And when I was on that show, there was a guy this woman's son went missing, and he was a cyclist, right? He was a biker. And I went to her house and we talked. And I'm like, are you concerned about your son? And she would hint certain things like, yeah, he said he was. No. She didn't say that. But this is what she said, right? She would say stuff like, he was such a good boy. I hear you always want to paint your person in a good light. I understand, man. I'm not here to try to. I don't need you to convince me. I need you to tell me what happened.
Right.
Well, yeah, he came in and he just left his sister. Huh? What are you talking about? So I was in contact with the police. So we had surveillance video, right? He got first she had access to his credit cards and all this stuff, and she showed me all the documents. And I'm like,
it's a little weird.
I'm like, how is that possible? Dude is like 18 years old. How is that even possible? Oh yeah, his Facebook account was up, and there's all this weird stuff. I said, all right, cool. I'm looking at the records, and I'll never forget that. I think I saw something, or she told me about something regarding Greyhound, right? So because he wasn't a minor, Greyhound would not allow her to look at the surveillance video. So the detective that was working on the case, he wound up going and getting the video. So him and I was in contact. Man, come to find out, this guy took the Greyhound bus to Canada, actually.
Okay.
To Canada. So, or something like that. His passport was used to get into Canada. So they talked to the embassy over there. And me and the detective, we were in contact. He told me all the information. Listen, man, his passport was used to get into Canada. Now, this was during a time. This is before Trump got elected. This was during a time when people were saying, "I'm going to move to Canada if Trump gets elected."
Right.
This was that whole big craze, right? So once Trump got elected, ironically, this guy was in Canada. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? So he wasn't missing. He was, as you say, overdue.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Yeah, he's just not where he's supposed to be. And
not where he's supposed to be.
And somebody's concerned, annoyed, or whatever. And you got now the new thing is people are hiding in jail from people.
Whoa,
they'd rather go to jail because they're involved in different business ventures and involve moving product around, and they take money from one person, and then they take money from they buy it on credit and they sell it in with advance payment. Then they use it and they use the money, and then they hide in jail.
Right.
So that's another thing you have to check out because.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the family doesn't know, but that's the latest wave. And I'm always keeping track of these things. That's why I'm up late, looking at different stuff, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And I'm always behind. Mm-hmm. I'm always behind because you can't get ahead of it. But I'm ready for the cyclical pattern. It's always a cyclical pattern with it. But there are just, it's not going to stop. There's always going to be missing persons.
It's unfortunate because I think that somebody out there, or I mean, I guess maybe subconsciously you try to figure out, okay, what is like a method to stop this? Well, you're right. I don't think it's ever going to stop. I think that the systems need to get better to try to help this. But also, even when it comes to runaways, I think that I think people need to start treating their children better or something like that. I don't know, man. It's hard, as you continue to be a mentor to me, man. I constantly, every time I'm interviewing somebody or before I interview, there has been some situations where I was like, no, this is not it. Because
Am
of
I like on your shoulder screaming?
Yeah, you are in my shoulder screaming at me.
Good.
You got the version of you that has all black on, and you had the version of you that has not even white. It's like gray, light gray.
Like a khaki, because I used to wear all khaki. I used to wear khaki before I went to all black.
Yeah, or khaki, man. So that helps me a lot because again, I not in a million years would I be sitting here thinking or even thought about doing missing people. I don't know, man. For me, it's just I love being able to help, and I love storytelling, and I love being able to kind of tell stories in a real way for me. So, yeah. But I do have a question for you.
Okay.
Did you hear about the young girl? She's 5 years old from Cumberland County.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's a crazy situation. What do you think about that?
I'll tell you my answer off air, but I'll tell you what's going on with that and answer that because that's it's not getting any more traction. It's just the press is just on top of it because it's an exciting story. It's a young girl, everybody's sympathetic to it, but and not that it's not a sympathetic story, but I feel that there's a point where you're not adding to it, so move on to the next thing. Keep it update people briefly, but how many? What annoys me is while this young girl's missing, how many other people have gone missing and didn't get a second airtime?
Right.
Well, we had a guy that didn't get the right airtime he could have, and I think because it happened in the midst of that story, and I know of others that happened in the midst of that story, and then what we do is every other time we go overboard on one. And then we neglect the following one.
Right,
and we go overboard out of the shame and neglecting the last one, and we keep doing it instead of having a standard response.
Right.
We're stuck on that, and we're stuck. And I know sometimes I know if I could have got places a couple of days earlier, I could have saved somebody's life.
Yeah.
You can make a difference. And sometimes the difference between a day or two, is some like that's the difference. That's why I get mad.
Wow.
But when people don't call.
Yeah, for sure.
But you got to change a little bit of time. Every time I meet somebody like yourself or somebody else who realizes and wants to change it, that makes me feel better about it. I feel like there's hope for the future.
Well, listen, man. I think that you are, you doing a great job by imparting your wisdom and putting it in the right places.
No, it's and hopefully, and you talked about helping everybody. I changed that a while ago. If I can help a family, if I can help one person a year,
that's good. Okay,
I'll start there.
Okay,
and if everybody does that, then we'll have a good beginning. That's good. If I help 2, that's better. If I help 30, that's better. Man, but one is better than none.
I like that. Can I steal that from you?
Steal it.
Okay.
Steal away.
Cool.
You try and do it. And I told a family this past week. They said, with the loss of their loved one, I said, this is a tragedy, and nobody should minimize that or take it away from you. I said, but it could always be worse, and we help mitigate it being worse. And family member said, how could this be worse? I said, could have been a mystery. Yeah, mystery is worse than a tragedy in a missing person case.
That's true.
Because people just want answers, and the longer it draws out, it just kills people to not have answers. There's cases. There's a kid up in Reading that's been missing for a while. There's Tony Lee Sharpless in this area. There's Anna over in Malvern who's been missing. There's Barry Zeldin over in Jersey. The long outs are missing. Jersey's got a lot of missing people. Yeah. There are 3 people right now in the northwest section of the city went missing within a mile of each other, within a day of each other.
Wow.
I'm not saying it's something